The alien queen broke down in tears. Her lost daughter was returned by a human hero. The galaxy knew the name Queen Serixa, and it feared it. Her empire stretched across hundreds of star systems, each one silent proof of her will. Worlds that resisted were erased. Worlds that obeyed survived. To most species, she was not a ruler but a force of nature, cold, unstoppable, and unforgiving. Her fleets moved with perfect order, her soldiers without hesitation, her justice without mercy. But none of them knew the truth hidden behind the black crystal walls of her throne world. Serixa stood alone at the edge of a massive viewing chamber, staring out into space. Stars drifted slowly beyond the transparent barrier, distant and uncaring. Her long, silver-black crest hung still behind her, once a symbol of pride, now untouched by ceremony. The queen had dismissed her advisors early. She always did on this day. It had been 20 cycles since her daughter vanished. The war that took her child was barely remembered by the galaxy now. Borders had shifted. Empires rose and fell. But for Serixa, time had stopped on the day the royal convoy was destroyed. The enemy claimed the princess had died in the explosion. The wreckage supported the claim. No body was ever found. A queen could not afford hope. Yet hope had never fully died. She had ordered searches that lasted decades. Entire fleets had been diverted. Ancient battlefields were scanned again and again. Every rumor, every whisper of survival had been followed, until each one ended in silence. Each failure hardened her heart further, turning grief into anger and anger into conquest. Many believed her cruelty was ambition. It was loss. Behind her, the throne room doors opened quietly. High Marshal Krell stepped inside, his armored form tall and rigid. He hesitated before speaking, knowing better than anyone how dangerous this day was. "My queen," he said carefully, lowering his head. Serixa did not turn. "If this is another false report, I will have your command reassigned to the outer void." That alone was enough to sharpen her attention. "Explain," she said. "A single vessel has crossed into restricted Imperial space," Krell reported. "It ignored all warning signals. The ship is small, human design." Her empire barely noticed them. "Destroy it," Serixa said without emotion. "We attempted interception," Krell replied. "The ship surrendered immediately." Humans do not request audiences with queens. Only that he will speak to no one else. "My queen, it could be a trap." He wore no armor, only a worn flight jacket marked by years of travel. His face was tired, lined with old scars and quiet determination. He did not look like a conqueror, a spy, or a fool. He looked like a man who had come a very long way. He stopped several meters from the throne and lowered his head, not in submission but in respect. "I thank you for hearing me, Queen Serixa," Elias said. The sound of her name in a human voice felt strange. "You trespass in forbidden space," Serixa said. Her voice echoed, powerful and controlled. "Give me one reason not to end your life where you stand." Serixa rose from her throne, towering above him. "You will explain yourself." "I wasn't a soldier," he continued quickly. "I was running salvage operations, cleaning up what wars leave behind. I found something drifting far from the battlefield, something everyone else missed. Damaged, ancient Imperial design, inside a child. I only knew that if I left her there, she would die. I repaired the pod. I learned how to care for her. I waited until I was sure." "Bring the pod." A young female, older than the memory frozen in her mind but undeniably of her blood, the crest, the markings, the face she had mourned. The room faded away. The queen of 1,000 worlds fell to her knees. A sound escaped her, raw, broken, and filled with 20 years of pain. Tears streamed down her face as her claws pressed against the glass. "My daughter," she whispered. No one moved. No one spoke. Elias lowered his head, giving her that moment. For the first time in the galaxy's history, the most feared ruler alive was simply a mother who had her child returned. And everything was about to change. The cryopod was moved with great care into the inner medical chamber of the palace. Bright white lights filled the room, softer than the harsh glow of the throne hall. Imperial healers surrounded the pod, their movements slow and respectful. No one dared rush. This was not just a patient. This was the lost daughter of the queen. Queen Serixa stood a short distance away, watching every motion. Her hands were clenched so tightly that her claws cut into her own palms, but she did not notice the pain. Her eyes never left the figure inside the glass. For 20 cycles she had imagined this moment in dreams and nightmares, and now that it was real, she was afraid to breathe. Captain Elia's ward stood near the entrance, flanked by 2 guards. They did not restrain him, but their presence was clear. He felt the weight of the room pressing down on him. He had faced storms in deep space, pirates, hunger, and loneliness, but nothing compared to standing this close to the heart of an empire. The chief healer finally spoke. "My queen, the cryo system is old but stable. Awakening her too quickly could cause damage. We must proceed slowly." As the healers began their work, memories flooded her mind. She remembered her daughter as a small child, curious and bright, always asking questions about the stars. She remembered promising to show her the far worlds one day. That promise had been broken by war. Elias watched the queen from the corner of his eye. He had seen grief before, but never like this. Not from someone so powerful. In that moment he did not see a ruler. He saw a parent standing on the edge of losing hope all over again. Time passed slowly. Machines hummed. Soft lights flickered across the cryopod as systems adjusted. At last, one of the healers turned toward the queen. "She will awaken," the healer said, "but she will be confused. Her mind has been asleep for many years." Her voice, when it came, was quiet. "I will be here." She looked around the room, clearly disoriented. Her gaze passed over the healers, the machines, the guards. Then it landed on the queen. They stared at each other. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the young woman's lips moved. "Mother." She rushed forward, ignoring protocol, ignoring dignity, and gathered her daughter into her arms. She held her tightly, as if afraid she might vanish again. "Yes," Serixa said through tears. "I am here. I am here." "You never were." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in fear but curiosity. "Who is he?" she asked softly. Serixa turned, as if only now remembering the human's presence. Her expression shifted, grief mixing with something harder to read. "He is the one who brought you back to me," the queen said. The daughter studied Elias more closely. "You look older," she said. Elias blinked, surprised. "You remember me." The human had not just preserved her daughter's body. He had stayed. He had spoken to her. He had treated her as someone who mattered. That realization frightened her more than any enemy ever had. Later, when the daughter was resting under healer supervision, Serixa ordered Elias brought before the council chamber. The room was smaller than the throne hall but filled with the most powerful figures of the empire. They regarded Elias with suspicion, anger, and fear. Serixa took her place at the center. "You hid royal blood," one counselor said sharply. "That alone is punishable." "I protected her." "This human did. But she deserved to come home." As the doors closed, Elias finally allowed himself to sit. His hands trembled slightly. He had done what he came to do. Whatever happened next was beyond his control. Meanwhile, Serixa returned to her daughter's side. The young woman was awake again, staring at the ceiling. "Mother," she said quietly. "Yes, my heart." "Possibly. That does not make him wrong." And in a quiet chamber beneath the palace, a human waited, unaware that his simple act of mercy had already begun to change the fate of empires. The palace felt different now. The halls that once echoed with strict commands and heavy footsteps carried a strange quiet. Servants whispered. Guards watched each other with uncertain eyes. News had spread faster than any official order ever could. The lost daughter lived. A human had returned her, and the queen herself had wept. Queen Serixa sat beside her daughter's resting chamber, refusing to leave. She had ordered the council to wait. For the first time in many cycles, the empire could wait. Her daughter mattered more than laws, more than pride, more than war. The young woman lay propped against soft support fields, her strength slowly returning. Her movements were careful, but her eyes were clear. She was learning again, her body, her place, her reality. "Mother," she said quietly, breaking the silence. Sarixa turned instantly. "Yes. Now there are worlds. You look tired. I do not know anymore." His mind kept returning to the moment the daughter opened her eyes and spoke. He had not realized how much weight he had been carrying until it was finally set down. A soft sound came from the door. It opened, and to his surprise, Queen Sarixa stepped inside alone. The guards remained outside. Elia stood immediately. "My queen." "Remain seated." About oceans and storms. About how humans argue, fail, and try again. About how no one deserves to be forgotten. "Do you know what you have done?" she asked. "I returned a daughter to her mother," Elias said. "Whatever else follows, I accept." "They fear what mercy means." "They interfered with imperial fate," a third snapped. Sarixa listened without interruption. At last she rose. "My daughter speaks," she said. The chamber fell silent. The young woman entered, supported but standing on her own. She looked smaller than the towering figures around her, yet her presence carried weight beyond rank. "I was lost," she said clearly. "Alone in darkness. This human did not know who I was. He did not know what I could bring him. Yet he stayed." Sarixa felt pride rise where once only fear had lived. The council dismissed for deliberation, but the outcome was already shifting. The daughter's words carried something no decree could counter: truth. Beyond the palace, across the empire, stories spread. Soldiers spoke of the queen's tears. Merchants spoke of the human who returned hope. Even rival species listened closely. For the first time, humanity was not being discussed as weak or irrelevant. They were being discussed as dangerous in a different way, not because they conquered, but because they reminded the galaxy of what it had forgotten. As Elias was escorted back to his chamber, he did not know his fate, but he felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Hope. And far above the palace, among the silent stars, history quietly changed direction, guided not by fleets or fire, but by a simple human promise kept in the dark. Captain Elias Ward sat in the same quiet chamber, but the silence felt heavier now. Time moved slowly inside the palace, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Guards still stood outside, but their posture had changed. They no longer looked at him like a criminal. They looked uncertain. Across the palace, Queen Sarixa stood alone in the council chamber after the others had left. The great circular room felt empty, without voices arguing over law and power. For many cycles, she had ruled through certainty. Now certainty was gone, replaced by questions she could no longer ignore. Her daughter's words echoed in her mind. "If that is a crime, then perhaps our laws need healing." Sarixa looked at her own reflection in the polished black floor. She barely recognized the being staring back. This queen carried grief, regret, and something fragile that felt like fear, not fear of enemies, but fear of becoming someone unworthy of her child. A soft sound came from the entrance. Her daughter stepped inside, walking on her own this time. She moved slowly but with purpose. "You sent everyone away," the daughter said. "Yes," Sarixa replied. "I needed to think. When I was drifting, I thought the galaxy was cruel because no one came. Now I see that maybe people forgot how to look. I told myself it would fill the emptiness. Care is what you use when you are brave. If not, every border will be tested. Humans endure because they choose to." "This empire was built on strength," Sarixa continued. "But strength without purpose becomes cruelty. I lost sight of that. He saved my daughter. Instead, he will stand before this empire not as a criminal, but as a witness." He was brought before the full imperial assembly, a gathering so vast that even seasoned leaders trembled before it. Elias felt small standing there, but he stood straight. Queen Sarixa addressed the assembly. "This human crossed our borders," she said. "Yes. He broke our law, yes. but he upheld something greater. He had never intended to speak before an empire. "I am not here to challenge your rule," he said slowly. "I am not here to ask for reward. I did what I did because it was right. Even if no one thanks you. From this day," she said, "human vessels will be granted safe passage through imperial space. Any harm done to them will be answered as harm done to this empire." Queen Serixa joined him there, her daughter at her side. "You are free to leave," Serixa said. Elias nodded. "Thank you." History remembers choices. A human had returned a lost daughter. An empire had chosen restraint over rage. And for the first time in a long while, the galaxy wondered not how powerful humanity was. The massive defense platforms that once tracked every unknown vessel stayed still as Captain Elias Ward's ship passed through the edge of Imperial space. Sensors followed him only long enough to ensure his safe exit. For the first time since he had entered the Empire's territory, Elias felt the tension leave his shoulders. He did not cheer. He did not celebrate. He simply sat in the pilot's seat and stared at the stars ahead. He had brought someone home. That was enough. Behind him, in the vast halls of the palace, Queen Serixa watched the last trace of the human ship fade from view. Her daughter stood beside her, steady now, no longer needing support fields. She looked healthier with each passing cycle, strength returning to her body and clarity to her mind. "He did not look back," the daughter said softly. "No," Serixa replied. "Humans rarely do when they believe their task is complete. You have changed." Power does not surrender easily, but Serixa was still queen and her will remained iron, only now it was guided by purpose instead of pain. Across the galaxy, other species watched closely. Many had lost worlds to Serix's empire in the past. They waited for deception, for weakness, for the moment when mercy would give way to fire once more. That moment did not come. Instead, a formal message was broadcast across known space. It was brief. The Empire acknowledged past actions driven by grief and fear. It did not excuse them. It declared a new era of measured rule and enforced protection for neutral and developing species, including humanity. The message stunned the galaxy. Humanity, once ignored, now found itself under the indirect shield of the most powerful empire known. No one understood it. Some suspected manipulation. Humans themselves were the most confused of all. On Earth, Elias Ward returned to no parade and no grand welcome. His ship docked at a small station near the edge of human space. A few officials questioned him. Medical staff checked him. Reports were filed. When asked what he had gained from the journey, Elias gave a simple answer: "I brought someone home." Yet wherever he traveled, something had changed. Alien ports that once treated humans with suspicion now offered help. Supplies came easier. Warnings arrived sooner. Sometimes, without explanation, a human ship would find itself escorted safely through hostile regions by vessels that bore the imperial mark. The Queen's decree was being honored. Back on the imperial world, Serixa and her daughter stood before a vast hall of historians. This gathering was not for politics or war. It was for memory. The daughter stepped forward. "For many cycles," she said, "our history recorded victories and defeats. It counted worlds taken and enemies broken. But history is not only what we conquer. It is what we choose not to destroy. Let it be recorded," the Queen said, "that the Empire's future changed not because of fear, but because someone chose to act without it." She visited human worlds openly, without armor or threat. Where she went, understanding followed. As for Elias Ward, his name slowly faded from daily news. That was how he preferred it. Legends made him uncomfortable. He believed stories should belong to those who needed hope, not those who already had it. But in quiet places, his story was told. It was told among soldiers who chose restraint when orders allowed cruelty. It was told among explorers who turned back to save someone instead of pushing forward for glory. It was told among children of many species, whispered like a promise. One day, many years later, Elias received a message while his ship drifted near a dead star. The signal bore Imperial encryption. He considered ignoring it. Then he opened it. Queen Serixa appeared on the screen, older now but calmer than she had ever been. "My daughter will take the throne soon," she said. "She will rule a different empire than I did." "History will remember you," the queen said, "whether you wish it or not." He would make that choice again, without hesitation. Far across the galaxy, the daughter stood before a new generation. She did not speak of power, she spoke of responsibility. "The galaxy is vast," she said, "and it is easy to believe that one life does not matter, but empires rise and fall on such beliefs. A human once showed us that strength is not proven by what you can take, but by what you refuse to abandon."